Hello, my name is Colleen Zawadsky. I'm the president of the Tully Lake Property Owners Association. Tully Lake is a beautiful historic community lake with a blend of year-round residents and vacationers. It began as a recreation spot in the 1800s, so it has tremendous historic value. It also, as a kettle lake, shares similar characteristics as our other kettle lakes. For those of you that are thinking about projects, I'm going to throw out a couple of ideas that I've been thinking about with some of my board members, and these are concerns that have come up not just recently, but some of them have historic backgrounds. We have been part of a watershed improvement plan study that was designed to examine storm runoff into our kettle lakes. And as a result of that study, a watershed improvement plan, or WIP, was developed. So one thing that somebody could do as a project idea would be to examine our watershed improvement plan to begin looking at how we can establish some reasonable goals as a lake association over the next 3 years. Some of them are high priority areas, and there are grant funds available, but we need to start looking at developing a solid action plan. Some of those types of things that one would be looking at in that watershed improvement plan might be looking at the small town park, Cummings Park, because it was suggested that a riparian buffer be installed there so that drain and runoff into the stream that feeds into the lake is diminished. Another suggestion in that plan that I would love to have somebody look at is the state DEC launch at the south end of the lake in Cortland County. There we're trying to stop aquatic invasive species from coming into our lake, and we've had lake stewards who were occasionally there to let people know that they were either bringing weeds in or bringing weeds out of our lake. And so we've installed some signage. But that little DEC launch is very problematic for our lake. We have people trying to bring in bigger motors than are allowed, bringing in things that are not inspected. We believe there's runoff coming from the actual launch area because of the way that it was developed and poorly maintained. We think maybe a buffer might be a great project there. So I would love to have somebody study that state DEC area to make recommendations about what we can do to both diminish the aquatic invasive species issue and also to look at runoff into the lake, storm runoff. Another project that I was thinking about is we have a lake management plan that looks at Tully Lake from the 1990s, and we recently completed a 2-year management plan that culminated this year. I would love somebody to look at those 2 management plans and our actual lake itself to see what things jump out at them. What are some things that are glaringly interesting or different or maybe surprisingly similar? So I thought that would be another really wonderful idea. And then another one that a couple of our board members and I have been talking about is Tully Lake, as many small lakes, has a significant issue with the way that the water levels are maintained because of beaver dams. And we were looking at this thing that was developed by Clemson University. It's a pond leveler. And it's being used now as a way to take a beaver dam and actually, instead of removing the dam, they put a plastic tube or pipe through it so that the water continues to flow and the beaver don't continue to build around it because it's already built. So we have a couple of areas that we think might be good candidates for something like that. But I'd love to have a student help me think of where that would make sense, find out what's involved in the process, maybe start an action plan with me around that. I have a board member that would work with us on that. So anyway, these are a couple of ideas that I would like to throw out. Tully Lake has Planktothrix, which is a cyanobacteria that is a deep water bacteria. That's another thing that somebody could look at. We currently are having an outbreak today, which is why I have kayak hair, because we've been out all day in kayaks taking samples and looking at the expansiveness of it. It's very different from the typical blue-green algae, so that might be another project somebody'd like to look at. Anyway, thank you, Dr. Schultz, for sharing this information with your students, and I hope all goes well in September, and I look forward to meeting your students when we meet at Mrs. Heath's home. Take good care. Bye-bye.